Hi, my name is Ian. Welcome to Momentium's very first video. Our videos are meant to help small business owners and entrepreneurs scale their businesses sustainably and profitably. Today's conversation will be with business owner Tristan Nguyen of Tristan CPA. Tristan has been running his own accounting firm for the last 7 years and has grown to 7 employees with 30 customers ranging between the $1 million and $10 million mark. They're from all different industries. He works virtually from his home in Texas, and we're gonna go over and have a conversation with him about how he started his business and the tips and tricks he learned along the way. This podcast will be especially valuable for those in professional services who are looking to grow and grow sustainably.
All right, yeah, well, first of all, I'm very grateful to be your first podcast, no matter what the reason is.
You're just local,
Even if it's just convenient.
I'm kidding.
Even if it's just convenient, I'm very grateful to be your first guest.
And most handsome.
Thank you. Now,
See, I got
you're
the
trying
t-shirt.
to
I got the Tristan CPA t-shirt.
Now you're just trying to flatter me. So I'm very grateful to be your first podcast for sure. And I want to support you as much as possible, so if you need anything, please do let me know.
TristanCPA.com if you need an accountant. He's my accountant, full disclosure. He does a great job.
Yes.
So.
And he's a great client as well. But yeah, I think the first year was definitely the toughest, right? And to kind of give you a little bit more about why it was tough, you kind of have to understand where I was coming from, right? I was a corporate accountant making close to 6 figures. And I had a lifestyle that represent that salary, right? So, I just happened to have just bought a house. I had a BMW that's very expensive to maintain. I buy toys and gadgets and electronics all the time because I would just, I had the disposable income to do that, right? But I did have one thing going for me was that I had about like $20,000 saved before I started my business, and I thought that was enough, and boy, I was wrong. Like you said, first 8 months, I had a handful of clients, tax return only client. They pay me about $300 to $400 per return, and this is annually, right? So, oh man, I struggle financially, and also it took a pretty big mental toll.
That's $3,000 of revenue.
That's about $3,000
for the first 8 months.
For the first 8 months, about $3,000 or $4,000 revenue for the first 8 months, and it was really tough. And like I said, I have very high personal expense, so at that started like depleting my savings really quickly. By I think by month 4 and 5, all my savings was gone, and I had to start thinking about how I can make ends meet, how I can make my mortgage and stuff like that, right? So I sold my BMW first thing, and at that time, selling a BMW was like, I thought I had a lot of attachment to it, but at that time, it was just a material things I didn't care about anymore. I sold it. I rent out an extra bedroom in my townhouse to get some extra income in. I pick up a couple of jobs, mostly working my family business on the weekend just to pay some bills. But yeah, that was a very, very tough period for sure.
Were you still promoting back then?
No. That was years ago. That was before I started any, that was like between college.
Let's get into that later. It's funny because you look at Tristan now and he only dresses up in shirts and he's so buttoned up, goes to bed by 10 o'clock. But he was an animal.
Yeah.
What was going through your mind during those 8 months? Because I'm pretty sure tax returns didn't take you that long, to do. So what were you doing the rest of the day,
Yeah, so I call it now paying my ignorant debt, because what it is really just I started when I started my business. I was like, no, I know a lot of things. I had a lot of pride in myself too, and know a lot of things. I was like, I can figure this out. And quickly, 1 month in, I was like, man, I know nothing, right? I don't know how to do a website. No marketing skill, no sales skill, nothing. So during that time, I was just trying to absorb, so much information on how to run a business, as well as also learning about accounting. I didn't really intend to start doing with taxes first. I actually had no tax experience before I did my first tax return. I was just like, no, I'm a CPA. I'm just get the one person to trust me with the tax return, and I did their tax return. That first tax return took me like 3 days, and now a tax return probably took me like 20 minutes. But yeah, so it's just a lot of learning and a lot of learning and doing different things, and really just paying back that ignorant debt. And it took a really long time to figure things out, and knowing that I don't know everything, and start hiring other people, or looking for other people to help me. Like I asked somebody to help me with marketing. I had somebody help me with with sales. I started joining networking organization and Ace Next Gen as well to kind of help me further develop my skill set for sure.
How'd you get your first accounting client? Not tax return, but accounting.
That's a kind of fun. It's a kind of funny thing, but I've done all these things trying to attract accounting clients, right? So I've advertised on Google, nothing. I write blog or write posts and all this stuff, nothing. I just happened to attend my friend's kid's birthday party, and there's just this guy who is a friend of my friend, and he just happened to own a brewery that they just opened a couple years back, and he's doing all the accounting, and I just happened to be there at the right time, and yeah, it was just pretty luck that I was able to get that client for sure.
Yeah. I love that about sales and marketing. I'm pretty sure you wrote some of those blog posts. You're like, this is an amazing blog post. Someone's gonna buy my services, and then it's at a birthday party.
Yeah,
right. You get your first client.
Yeah, and luck has a lot to do with success of the business, but also you have to be there and be ready for the opportunities to arise. Like I think at that time, I was doing a lot of sales pitches already. I was working on my sales pitches. I was going to network events. So by that time that I met him, I was already pretty good at trying to sell my services.
You were ready for it.
Yeah, so I was ready for it. But it was just luck itself. There's also that that opportunity you created, so that when that not opportunity you create, but there's just things you can do so that when that opportunity does present itself, you're ready for it.
Yeah, it's like luck meets opportunity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when you pitched him your initial services, did you give him a high price point, or where did you price your services? Did you feel confident?
That's a really good question. I'm thinking back, right? And I looked back at how much we charge him and stuff like that. At that time, for 8 months, I was trying to sell the services, and it didn't bite. No one bites. I was like, is my service valuable? Is something I'm creating valuable, right? So you start questioning about the value of services and stuff like that. And so when I quoted him, I was desperate for a client. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna give him a kind of low price. Kind of a low price.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I gave him a low price. It's about $3,000 per month, and we did everything for that business. All the accounting, we pay the bills, we send an invoice to the customer, we collect payments, and I meet with them every week. I spend my Tuesday afternoon at their brewery. Every Tuesday, for 4 hours, sitting there, just helping them with their business. So we spent a lot of time for that $3,000. But yeah,
and that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of work, right?
Right. So for that same client right now, the amount of work we do is very similar, but our fee is 4.5 times more than what it was before. Yeah.
Did you fake it till you made it, or were you honest with them, hey, you're my first client, I'm going to go above and beyond, or you went with it and just were like, I'm just going to pretend like I know what I'm doing?
That's a good question. I think a little bit of both, right? You kind of have to portray some kind of confidence that you know what you're doing, but you also don't want to kind of come off as this kind of overzealous or over too confident about your services, right? So when I told him, like, hey, we have been trying to put together services, we have experience and this and that. I've been an accountant for X amount of years, so I'm very good at this. This service that we put together is customized for you and for your business only. But like if you want a referral, I have referrals on other clients I do different services for. I'm more than happy to give. I think at that time, he didn't really trust us or trust me very much, so that's why he required us to be at their location for every Tuesday for a while. And I think we did that. I did that for a good 6 months before I told him, hey, you know what? We proved our services. You don't need me to be here. We can still get our service done, and that I don't have to be there anymore.
So, getting that first client, and I don't know, this is how I feel about sales and marketing, is getting your first client is like losing your virginity. You get so caught up the first time, and after that, it's just so freeing. I don't know if that was your experience, but that's been my experience with getting those first clients.
Yeah. It's definitely a major milestone for my business because for my business, also for a personal reason as well. Like for the business, it was $3,000 a month. It's at that time I was pretty close to like not being able to pay my rent for the office that I was renting, not being able to pay my mortgage and like my personal expense, all that stuff. So the $3,000 a month allowed me to pay the bills, keep the lights on,
allow you to survive,
and allow me to survive because and also what it also does is kind of like a proof that our service is valuable to our customers, right? It's just a matter of finding the right customer and get in front of them. So yeah, it was really exciting. It enables essentially everything else, and to me personally, it kind of proved to me that I can do this, and that that I can that I can build something from nothing, and that I'm not a failure. Yeah.
So what was next after that? After you got that first client?
Yeah, so after the first client, immediately I knew that I need help, so I had the funds to hire some part-time help. So we hired part-time help, and then I used them as kind of like case studies to take on other clients of similar size, similar services, and then within like say a year, we hired a full-time employees, and a couple more months we hired another full-time employee. So it's just one thing. When it's like getting traction, and you can kind of prove that your services work, and that is valuable to a certain client, and that you can, you now just find other client that see that your service is valuable and just replicate it.
How did you convince your first clients, and how did you your first employees? How did you convince them to come on to something that's just you?
Right. Yeah. So my first employee was a part-time. She she was hired as a bookkeeper, and I think at that time she just needed a job, and she's just got out of divorce, and she's was a housewife, and she's never worked. And I was like, I wanted to give her the opportunity. She was a referral she was a referral from one of my friends, but bringing on my first full-time hire, that was a little bit more difficult, right? Because now I'm trying to convince somebody who's just fresh out of college to come join my company, who's just me, haven't got an improving product, and there's no certainty about the future.
So livelihood is in your hands.
Right. Right. So it was very difficult, and actually to find full-time was really hard. We did job posting to find somebody in, no bites. Even some that bites, they weren't qualified, or they didn't have the necessary skill set, or just didn't fit culturally. But I found my first full-time client because he was a barista.
Your first
employee, full-time employee. He was a barista at a coffee shop that I frequent right next to my office, and I just I spoke with another barista. She's kind of someone I know, and I was like, I'm having trouble hiring an accountant, and she's like, oh, you know what? We have another employee here who's a barista. He's just graduated from college, and he has an accounting degree, and he does the finance for us. Would you be interested in talking to him? I was like, you know what? And he wanted to pursue dancing, but he kind of realized that at a national level, the kids who are at national level, they've been dancing for like all their lives, right? So he kind of sees that, he can't see it. It's not a career for him. So I bring him in. It's like, look, like if you want to come, like I'm never gonna. I love people with passion and stuff like that. If you want to come in and work and then pursue that passion separately, and as long as it doesn't interfere and then we talk about it, I'm totally cool with that. And that's kind of part of the reason why he decided to join. And I've taught him everything because he was kind of like my star employee. He'd been with me since the beginning, so yeah, I've taught him essentially everything I know. It was really sad that he wanted to leave, but yeah.
So you got your first employee, and it's funny how all of this is just like kind of random, like your first customer, birthday party, first employee was like a referral, first full-time employee was at a coffee shop. So when did you start ramping up the business where, it went from one client to more clients?
I think, once we kind of get our first client, a monthly recurring client, I was confident that I can like sell the same service to other client. So so that's why I was trying to hire more people to do the work so that I can focus on sale. And so during that phase, I was, trying to do a bunch of different things, trying to get our name out there. A lot more polls, even though that didn't work the first time, ads and stuff like that. And then, one of the other client another big client we got like soon after was, because we kind of somewhat related to the first client, their tax accountant happened to be at the brewery when I was there, and we would be talking and we were meeting, and then they learn about me, and we get to talk, and he was like, hey, you know what, I have another client that need your services, and we can't provide them because we audit their numbers, and so we can't, if we do that service, we're literally auditing our numbers, so can you take them on for us? And I was like, you know what, yeah, we can. And so we kind of started a relationship with this CPA firm, and take on that client, and then they give us a couple more clients down the line. But yeah, I think it's one thing is kind of snowball to another thing, and then we, once you kind of have a couple of reviews, and like you kind of put on your website that you work with this client and that client, the name there, and then we work with an SEO company a couple years later to kind of help us get to page number 1, John Victoria. Yeah, you know him. So he gets to third post. If you at that time you search Boston accountant. We're like listed number 3, which is amazing. We're a small firm at that time. We had 3 employees, and we're competing with like the big 4. There are like about 4,000 accounting firms in Boston.
How many customers did you have at that point?
At that point, I think we were about 400K in revenue. So
how many like customers is that?
Like, so from a monthly recurring, I think we were about 10 or 11. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you're number 3.
Yeah, we were number 3, like very, very small. So John Victoria, he knows SEO. He got us up there really quickly. And
shout out to John.
Shout out to John.
Yeah, we'll put the information in the podcast. For sure. Yeah. That's awesome. So you started the SEO. So you got a lot. So your second client was like random at the brewery. Was the SEO like the biggest catalyst to your next stage? Or was it, what was the sales process?
Good question. I'm thinking back, I'm trying to remember how I got on the clients, and a lot of them comes from inbound, right? So most of them come from inbound. There's some that came from Ace Next Gen. There's, there was a few that came from Ace Next Gen.
Is this inbound through your website or also referrals or both? Or
mostly, I think they found us through our website for sure. So I think SEO has a big play in it for sure. And I can't, we weren't tracking like how we get our customers and stuff like that, and whether or not that is related to SEO or just someone new who needed an accountant search and then just found us.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just most 90% of our sales were inbound, and 10% of our sales were from referrals. Yeah.
Yeah. SEO is really underrated. I know for our business, Chicken and Rice Guys, we get a lot of inbound customers because people are just searching on Google.
Right.
Our Google listings probably have about tens of thousands of views a month.
Right.
And you can't replicate that with anything else,
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think SEO probably had a lot to do. Actually, we had to end our contract with John because I literally told him, John, you bring us so much lead, we don't have the capacity to handle it. So that was the reason why we had to end the contract. I was like, there's too much lead, I can't handle it. So I need to like focus on building my team, and then we can restart it once I kind of have that capacity up and running. But yeah,
that's a great tip for all you out there. SEO
for
Google
sure.
it. You can do it yourself. That was actually my first internship was SEO.
Yeah?
It was back in 2009. It was called iProspect.
iProspect.
Yeah.
I think I heard of them.
It was a pretty big company.
Yeah.
Out in Watertown.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they're still around.
Okay.
Yeah, but you would just manually change tags and descriptions on the website. You try to get people to link to your website, things like that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool science.
And the thing about SEO, I try to figure it out. I can't. It's constantly changing. Google constantly changing their like how the algorithm works. So you definitely want a professional to do it. Like you can try and see if that works, but you really want real success, definitely have a professional do it, invest in that money and get
We'll get John on next.
Yeah, we'll get John on next.
John was an inspiration to this podcast too.
Yeah, he has an amazing podcast going right now for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Number 2 to this podcast. Our very first podcast. We're going to be number 1.
Yeah.
Cool. So after that, would you say like your growth, was it like a hockey stick growth, or was it just kind of, how would you describe those first couple years?
I think our growth has always been gradual and like more of like calculated.
Very linear.
Yeah, like and it's also calculated because we, the limitation to our growth is not sales. The limitation to our growth is finding staff to support the client, right? And so I had to be very, very careful about bringing on too many clients and spreading my staff too thin, and then causing stress within the company. Creating like just inferior product to the client, right? So I have always been very calculated about how we grow, and so our growth has been very linear because of it. And I think. And then also, we try to hire. I think you know about this. We try to hire a few very high level controllers to kind of help us grow, and that didn't really pan out as well. So that's kind of stop us from growing at an exponential pace as well. So,
can you tell me more about your hiring? And I know you use virtual hiring in like the Philippines. Can you talk more about that process?
Oh, sure.
How that all started and how you manage that?
We started meddling in looking at talented overseas because we were having a really hard time finding good talent in the United States, especially talent that is that's not expensive, to be blunt, right? Because accounting in the United States right now are very expensive in comparison to other.
And there's a shortage, right?
And there's a shortage right now. And then at the American Institute of CPA, the AICPA, they released a report saying that there are 40% more accountant jobs than there are accountants, right? Wow. So, and like the large accounting firm, like the Big Four, just gobble up all the talent, and so
they got the most money.
Yeah, exactly. And so small firm like us struggle a lot with that. So I needed to find a solution to the talent problem, right? And I know that bigger firm, like Big Four, has been outsourcing their accounting services to like India and stuff like that already. So I was like starting exploring and looking at India, and I actually started working with an agency in India for. It lasted about
India,
yeah. It lasted about 2 months, and the reason why it didn't work out was because you never know who you get, right? It's an agency. You know, they introduced me that, you know, this guy named you know, some Indian, you know, some name, right? And then he will, you know, I would be interfacing with him, talking to him, and then you know, like a month later, the tone has changed, and like you ask him to do something, and he says he already done it, but he didn't do it, and you kind of really clearly tell that this is a different person, because like the way the email was written, but he also, you know, they signed the email the same person. I even asked him, "Are you this guy?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm the same person." I was like, "No, you're not, because the first guy I got was amazing, and you're terrible."
Yeah, he was just having a bad day.
No. It wasn't just one day. It was like the whole, you know, and so I felt like, because in the agency model, right, they just have a bunch of staff, and then they just kind of rotate the staff, because you don't know who you get and stuff like that. So that was really what I didn't want. I want consistency in my town, and who is providing service to us. And then from I'm not sure you remember, we went to a retreat an ACE retreat in Nashville, and then Lockie, he mentioned about outsourcing to the Philippines and how you can get staff in the Philippines, right? And so I was like, hey, you know what, this is good. And then I start dabbling into it, talk to Lockie about where I post jobs and get you know, workers in the Philippines, right? And you know, he told me about like a couple websites, and then the one that I use the most is called onlinejobs.ph. I create full posting in English. I also use Indeed in the Philippines and just create full posting. So now we directly source and train all of our bookkeepers. They work for us. You know, our our longest working Filipino bookkeepers, and she has been, you know, very successful. She's very good. I have promoted her twice already, and she's been with us about 2.5 years now, right? And that's actually been with us since the beginning of our you know, hiring in the Philippines. Yeah.
A lot of people struggle hiring VAs. What would your tip be for retaining and finding the right ones, and also holding them accountable and compensating them?
I think you have to treat them like they're U.S. employees, right? And compensate them fairly. Actually, for most of my Filipino hires, I pay them at least 1.5 to 2 times more than what they were getting paid at their previous accounting firm they were working in the Philippines. So,
but is that still at American level though?
I'm sorry,
if you pay them 2 times.
No. It's very, very, you know.
They're still below American level.
They're still very below.
Paid very well.
Right, they're being paid very well. So I can afford to pay Filipino employees at premium. And like when it comes to retaining talent, and something that I've learned along the way is that you want good talent, you have to cash out the dough to get good talent, right? Because it's very hard to find good talent for cheap unless you're willing to train them from the beginning. And so, which is why I was very, you know, sad when Scott left, because you know, he was cheap, and I built him from the beginning.
Somewhere he's watching this. Got a little teardrop.
Come back. I'll pay you back. Now, I promise.
Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Okay, we'll edit that out. No, we're keeping it. We're keeping that.
But yeah, so I think number one, you know, pay them handsomely. It's in comparison in the U.S., it's still a drop in the bucket, but to them, it's a lot of money to them, right? So you want loyalty, pay them handsomely, treat them like you treat American employees. You know, I consider them like a part of my team. I see them no different than when we have American hires, as well as you know, my team over there, and I treat them all the same. And then 3, you know, like just make sure that you have good culture fit, and you give them mentorship and meet with them regularly. I find them to be I find the work ethic to be incredible, a lot more than some of the U.S. employees that we had and had to let go shortly after. And they all speak very, very good English with like a natural American accent. So there isn't much of like a communication barrier between me, them, and the client.
Have you ever thought about the ethical implications of hiring virtually? Like, I'm taking away jobs from Americans, or
That's a very good question.
Am I exploiting people in other countries? I'm not saying you are. I'm just curious if you ever thought about it.
I thought about them, but if you think about what you have to do to stay competitive, right? We're talking about large accounting firms have like a lot of offices in other countries right now, right? So if you don't compete at their level, right? If you don't do that, you can't compete at their level, you're gonna get crushed by them, right? So you have to think about number one, how do you stay competitive? And for us to stay competitive, that's what we have to do. Number two, one of the missions that we try to do is that we want to provide high quality, large scale accounting services to small business at affordable rate, right? And as you know, CPAs are very expensive. The average CPA charges about $250, $300, $400 an hour. And you think about that, and a small business who revenue is $1 million, they can't afford that kind of services. So for us to align with our vision to help our small business, and that's our goal, is to help our small business client utilizing employees overseas match that strategy. And also, the first thing we mentioned that there's a shortage of accounting in the United States. Like, it's not like we don't want to give people opportunity. We do hire in the United States, but there is a real shortage in the United States, and we have to meet that demand. We have to get that supply elsewhere if there is in the United States.
Good answer. Good answer. No, I think so. I mean, I think all the bigger companies have been doing it
for a long time.
Right? Not even just accounting, right? Everything's made in Asia. But you're right. It's how you treat them, right? You're paying them more. You're giving them a better life.
I am. All my employees are very grateful of the opportunity I gave them, for sure. And I want to. Because the alternative is that. What is the alternative in response to a shortage? We can invest in AI. We can invest in automation. We can invest in technology, right? With the same dollar amount, I was thinking about this for a while. I can actually take the money I pay to my employees and put into AI. Now, it costs about the same right now. Maybe in the future it might be a little bit different, but right now it's about the same. Should I pay the same amount to a computer, to artificial intelligence, or to human intelligence? And I'd rather pay to human intelligence and help somebody out in the third world.
Okay. Yeah. I know that wasn't on the questions beforehand, but just for my curiosity.
Good question, though.
Let's get back on track. What separates you from other accountants? You think this whole VA thing is a competitive advantage for you from a business perspective, but also from a client delivery perspective as well?
I think at the end of the day, right, the client doesn't matter who does the work, as long as the work that has been delivered is at the quality that they want, right? It doesn't matter if it's done by employees in the Philippines, employees in the United States. So for us, that's what we're trying to do, is make sure that our product that get delivered to a client is at high quality, right? And the thing that we do a little bit different from other I can't say large accounting firms because I don't see the inside of it, but small accounting firm is that they tend to use the agency model that I mentioned to you, right? And that way they don't really have a control over the training or who they work with or who the client work with. And so for us, what makes us different is that we directly source and hire and train each of our employees in the Philippines. We interview them, we train them, we talk to them, and we show them everything that like we train the United States employees so that the qualities remain high, right? And the clients work with the same person. Like one of our staff we have who's been along with us is Ivy. She's still Ivy. It's not somebody else named Grace that's mimicking as Ivy. And she come on video chat when we chat with our client and stuff like that too. It's the same person that they see. You know, I don't think other company can say the same.
So moving on from accounting, I want to talk about your personal philosophies on life. You know what's coming. You know what's coming. I actually agree on this topic with you, but one of the things that we often discuss is what is more important, motivation or discipline. So what's your answer?
Well, I think that discipline is more important than motivation.
And we're talking in the context of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, we'll talk about it in the context of entrepreneurship for sure. But maybe it also applies to other parts too. But life philosophy is, for sure. I believe that discipline outweighs motivation. Now you did bring a good point when we had this conversation is that you still need some motivation to get you started, but it is a discipline that carry you to the finish line. Like I can kind of give you something a little more related. Like let's say if you're overweight, right, and you want to lose weight, you have a motivation. No. I'm saying. I'm just giving an example, right? If a person is overweight and want to lose weight, there's a motivation for that person to lose weight. Maybe she or he is getting married soon, and he want to look good, right? Right. So that's the motivation for them to get started. But it is them being disciplined and continue to work out, to run, to do all these things that get them to lose the weight. Because motivation alone won't get it there.
Right. Where do you get your discipline? Because you're one of the most disciplined people I know. So just so everyone knows, Tristan wakes up at 5 a.m. every day. He's got it blocked out. Your work schedule has different time blocks for when you're working. You're in bed by
9:30 10,
yeah. You know, we'll be out. We'll be hanging out with friends, having a great time. Everyone has had a great time. About 10, he's got to go. You know, and not only that, but you eat right, you meditate, you do a lot of things that you should be doing to get your mind right. Very disciplined about it. I think a lot of people have these habits, but they don't do it. You know, on a regular basis, and you're really rigid. In terms of your discipline. So, where did you get your ability to have discipline? And maybe the question is, where do you get motivated to have this much discipline?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you start asking for about where you get motivation to get discipline, to get all this started, I think you can kind of ask the wrong question, right? And the question should be the question should be what can you do regardless of motivation? Like for me, there's some I'm five in the morning, I'm motivated to get up. Like I still stay in bed for struggling in bed for 5-10 minutes. But for me, it's like fuck my motivation. Can I swear? You cut that out.
Whatever. We're the #1 podcast on the internet. Okay.
So so forget about your motivation, right? Just get up and do it and create a routine and just keep on doing it and become easier and easier as you do it, right? And
yeah, but what motivated you to be so disciplined? You just wake up one day and be like, I'm gonna be disciplined. What made you want to be so disciplined? You know?
I think it's kind of tied back to the pursuit of mastery over a certain craft, right? And for me, that craft is accounting and building this business. When I first chose accounting as a major, I didn't choose it because it was a calling or anything like that. It was simply a safe option as a job for me to make money as soon as I graduate. And if you don't, we graduate at the same time, right? So you know that when we had to decide a major, which is in 2007, 2008, there was like a financial crisis going on and all this stuff. And there was a lot of, million people lose their jobs. So there was a lot of uncertainty in my head about how I'm gonna pay my student loan when I graduated. But so I chose accounting. as a major because it was a safe option. And so it was a job. And when I get out in accounting firm, it was still a job, right? But when I started my business, I started learning more about accounting. I was like, shit. Sorry if I'm gonna continue swearing. I started learning more about accounting, and
now my nieces and nephews can't watch Tristan. Thanks.
You can cut that out. You can cut that one out. Yeah, so I start to take on customers, and then they have problems. I was like, hey, I actually don't know the answer to these problems, so I have to increase my mastery over the accounting. Right? And as the more and more I learn about accounting, the more and more I realize that I don't know a lot about accounting. And so for me to be able to become, be a good accountant and continue serving my customer well, I have to continue learning and mastering my craft. And as I increase my mastery in accounting, it allows for great autonomy, and also I can demand more value for my services, right? And that can enable me to do a lot of different things, right? So because of that, I kind of start shifting my mind from, accounting to me is no longer just a job, but it's actually a career, and I want to get really, really good at this so that I can have great autonomy what I do. I can charge more and maybe work less in the future. And with that becoming my goal, I have to start thinking about my lifestyle, right? Like, how do I become a better accountant? How can I master my craft? And you can't learn well when you go out drinking every night and wake up hangover and serving to a client, right? And so you start to realize that in order to be good at something, you have to start having sound mind and body, right? And so that kind of translates to how can I have sound mind and body, and that is meditating, waking up, not drinking so much, not and
you
doing
quit
all the
drinking
things.
in January,
And I quit drinking, So that's kind of tied back to my pursuit to master in this one craft, which is accounting. That kind of translates to everything else. That kind of gave me the motivation to wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning, go jog, go work out, start working, and go to bed early, and all that stuff.
And your ultimate goal, you said, was to work less and have autonomy in what you do. Is that right?
Right. And you can't have autonomy what you do if you don't know what you're doing, right? Like, I think you told a story about a surgeon you met that he's so good as a surgeon that like when he go hiking, he's leave all his phone and stuff like that. And so if people need to reach him, they will have to go and reach him. Like he's so confident in his ability that like, hey, you know what? If they need me, they'll come find me, or else like I'm not catered to them. And that's because he has mastery over what he does.
So discipline creates freedom for you. But your motivation to be disciplined is the freedom.
I suppose you can say that.
It's a circle.
And also I think we kind of have this topic about find your passion, purpose, and stuff like that. And we talk about this in length, but I think for me, it's with increasing mastery, I started to enjoy and find meaning in what I do, for sure, right? And it wasn't something that I've got from the get-go. I think it's something that I've discovered recently, like now that I am kind of have really good mastery in accounting and the service that we provide. I started thinking about, okay, there are certain, because I now have the autonomy, there are certain things that I can do different, or there's certain things that I enjoy doing that I will continue doing, the things that I don't, I delegate to my staff.
Yeah, I feel like this topic of mastery is like, well, I guess the question is like, what lessons do you feel like entrepreneurship has taught you?
I think the biggest lesson entrepreneurship has taught me is how tightly the connection between your business and yourself, right? Meaning that if you're if your mind, your body is kind of all a mess, I kind of translate to your business become all a mess too, right? So you kind of have take control of your personal life, and that also translates to you being able to take control of your business, because at the end of the day, your business can become an extension of yourself. So the more disciplined and self-control you are personally, the more greater control and discipline your business can be.
I think that's a really important distinction. I think people see their business as something separate. It is you. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and what you do for yourself is going to affect your business,
Right, exactly.
and vice versa.
Right.
You know, it's not separate.
Right.
It's almost like how people sometimes see their body as something else, but your body is your body. You have to treat it well. It's not something else.
That's something else, right. And then especially at our scale, right, where we are so tightly involved with our business. Right? I mean, maybe when you are, Fortune 500 and you're CEO or something like that, maybe that will be a little bit different, where like there's so many people and stuff like that, where it's no longer, maybe then may no longer be an extension of yourself, but right now, everything's so involved, right? So yeah, it's so tightly connected.
Well, even then, their job is an extension of themselves,
True.
right?
True.
So it's job or business or whatever. It's what you do 40 hours of the week, whatever it may be.
Right.
Looking back at your journey, what do you love entrepreneurship? I guess that's the first question, and if you do, what do you love about it? You can say no.
I think I do love entrepreneurship, especially how it changes my life personally, right? Like,
yeah, where would you be?
Yeah, I would, I was drinking a lot, party a lot, never really care about my health. I was living a very materialistic life, and I would continue to be in a very materialistic life if I didn't choose the entrepreneurship journey. What the journey has taught me is that there are certain things that are important, and there are certain things that are not, and owning BMW, having fancy things in life are not important, but having good connection with people around you, because when you become an entrepreneur, you realize that you actually don't have a lot of time to make those connections, to spend time with your family, to spend time with your friends, to spend time with your significant other. So when you do have the opportunity, you treasure it, right? And that you realize that it becomes a lot more important. So yeah, so the entrepreneur journey makes me definitely become a much better person. I can't recognize myself now versus I was before I started my journey.
Do you feel like it humbled you? Like you almost made it too quickly in the beginning. You had all of this money and all of this time, and you kind of threw it away.
Yeah, it's definitely humbled me. I think so with the salary, it's like playing a game on easy mode. Right, and you're just kind of cruising through, your life and all that stuff. You're not thinking about all the difficulties you have. So you're not growing because of it. And then you kind of, and then when you become an entrepreneur, you kind of play on a very difficult mode. And now you got to learn about optimizing every part of your life in order to get past that mode, right? To overcome that challenge. And because of that, you become a lot better yourself. You grow a lot quicker as well.
So what's next? Because I would say you're on difficult mode now, right? And you're doing very well, right? So are you going to increase that mode, or,
I think the next, anyways, it's kind of different level, right? So the difficulty mode, right, that I have been on so far has been mostly dependent on me putting my hours in and doing the work, right? The next difficulty that I want to conquer is how do I make my team more efficient. So I have been trying to make myself more efficient. Now I want to take that, what I've learned, how to become more efficient, and make the company more efficient. So now I'm more focused on team development, less on client work, and just grow that side of the business. In business, there's so many different challenges, right? And this, I think, it will always gonna be on difficult mode unless you choose it to be on easy mode. And you can. There's certain times, sometimes you get to a certain point where you make enough money and you can just turn it back on easy mode.
So you actually want to go down in difficulty to easy mode?
I wouldn't say go down in difficulty. I would say that the challenges is different. It's a different kind of boss now. Before, the boss was just how do I optimize myself. Now the next boss that I want to be is how do I grow a team and build an efficient team.
Be a leader.
Be a leader. And that's something that I haven't done before, right? So it's definitely gonna be difficult. I would say gonna be an easy mode, and I want to continue to challenge myself in that aspect.
Yeah. How are you going about that now?
Learn from you. You know, you have a strong leadership team. You had a business for like 10. You've been in business for like 10 years. You got like 40, 50 employees.
You should find somebody else.
but
I have some references.
No, but like I've learned a lot from you, especially
Thanks,
over the time. No, I'm serious. Definitely learned a lot from you. So just find mentors.
I didn't pay him. I didn't rehearse that. This is not a shameless plug for our services.
I mean everything I said. Like he's been a mentor of mine for sure for a very long time.
Wow, really?
Yeah,
oh my goodness. Thanks, Tristan. You've been a mentor of mine.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen how you manage people and stuff like that. Like not just in your company, but also in the nonprofit days next gen, and our inner circle and stuff like that. And this, just try to lead on more mentors to kind of help me grow that, become a better leader.
I learned a lot from you. Seriously.
Thank you.
I think your discipline is infectious. It's great. It's definitely helped me a lot. We quit drinking together. That was great. And I like the way you manage your business. I think you're very hands-on in a good way that I've learned a lot from, And I think we talked about it a lot with ACE Next Gen, and ACE Next Gen is the Asian Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship for Millennials. You learned about VAs from there. We met each other. We got clients. Super powerful organization. Check it out, acenextgen.org. But if not, there's a lot of these different networking organizations, and everyone has kind of their different flavor and culture. I would highly recommend people go to these places and find people like peers to learn from, connections, all that. I would say that's, to me, I don't know, a very powerful part of my journey. I don't know about you, Tristan.
No, I completely agree, and I would add on to that I make so many business decisions. I would have not been able to make a lot of business decisions without the help of people I met in ACE Next Gen, especially in the circle, in the inner circle group that I'm in, where we just myself and a couple other business owners, we get together on a monthly basis and we talk about the challenges we're facing and the problem we have, and to kind of get each other feedback and how they would whether or not they have the issue and how they solve it. And that has been super helpful. I changed my recruiting methodology because I have expressed a recruiting problem in the business, and then another member of the inner circle mentioned, hey, he tried this new method and it works really well, and I tried that, and it's a good method and something we will continue using.
Yeah, they recommended the A method of hiring, right? So what's cool is like when you find a group, you don't have to read all the books. You just find people that you respect and connect with, and they read the book, and then you take their notes,
right,
or go read it yourself.
Right.
It's like so much more efficient than trying to learn everything by yourself.
Right.
Right.
And like in the beginning of this interview, I mentioned something about ignorant debt, right? So you can try to pay that debt by learning everything yourself, but there's a quicker way, which is trying to join an organization, meet other people who are a business owner, and you can learn from them, and I think that's the quickest shortcut to paying back that debt.
Yeah, and then you mentioned the inner circles. It's a mastermind group. There's a lot of groups for entrepreneurs out there. EO, Vistage are a lot of other highly recommended ones. So check those out. Last question. Last question, but I also want to talk about golf. What does being an entrepreneur mean to you?
I think what being an entrepreneur means to me is that they are a problem solver, right? You find a certain problem, and you want to solve it, whatever problem in the world that is you want to solve, and the problem and we can all be trying to solve a different problem. And it could be a same problem that everybody's doing, solving, but you just solve it in a different way, right? And for us, accounting has been, in there forever, right? Tax service has been in there forever, but what we try to do different is using a cloud-based technology, doing everything remotely, using teams in the Philippines and development teams in the Philippines, and directly sourcing and training them. So that's something we try to do differently, and try and solve that, solve the problem of bringing affordable account solutions to our clients. What about you? What do you think? What's your definition of entrepreneur?
Crazy people.
That too.
That can't sit still.
that too. Yeah.
Thanks for doing this, Tristan. This was great.
No.
Some great lessons here. Attend birthday parties. Hire VAs. And be disciplined.
Well, thank you for having me on this podcast interview. I really enjoy it. And thank you for listening.
Yeah, let me know if anyone wants these Tristan CPA t-shirts. If you made it to the end of this podcast, our very first one, I'll send you one. Yeah.
So make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right, that was good.
Yeah, that's good.